Earth to Mr. Hummus, Froggy the Gator said into a pretend microphone. Come in, Mr. Hummus. Do you read me? Loud and clear, Froggy, Mr. Hummus responded. All systems are go. The shuttle is prepared for ignition and our return journey to Earth. Radar shows clear skies and smooth sailing, Mr. Hummus. Engage thrusters and we'll see you Earthside soon, Froggy the Gator said. Froggy the Gator and Mr. Hummus were playing Lego rocket ships in the backyard. This was one of their favorite games to play, and today they had built a huge, incredible rocket ship out of Froggy's mini Legos, and they were pretending to send it on a mission to the Lego space station that they had also built out of Legos in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The Lego rocket ship they built used hundreds and hundreds of blocks of Legos. It was gray and white, like a normal rocket ship, but they had a big red stripe down the middle, and they made that out of red Legos, which helped it fly much faster. The space station was a huge sphere, which is kind of like a 3D circle, and they made that out of Legos too. It was big enough for the rocket ship to land on, and they pretended to have an entire space colony living on board, exploring the universe and helping expand humanity into the heavens. In their pretend game, Mr. Hummus was in the rocket ship orbiting the space station, and Froggy the Gator was down on the ground in ground control, making sure Mr. Hummus's Lego rocket ship returned to Earth safely. Mr. Hummus spoke over his pretend intercom system. Thrusters engaged, Mr. Hummus said. En route to your location, Froggy. You should see the sky from here, my friend. It is truly... And then, all of a sudden, Mr. Hummus's comms cut out. Mr. Hummus, Froggy said. Mr. Hummus, come in, come in. I don't read you. I repeat, I don't read you. Froggy waited with bated breath. Oh no, he thought. Mr. Hummus's comms went out just as he was beginning his return trip to Earth. Froggy the Gator repeated, Do you read me? Do you read me? Frantically into his comms device. But nothing. It was silence. Until, after what felt like forever, Froggy the Gator heard the muffled intercom static of Mr. Hummus's radio comms come back online. And what sounded like it was coming from way off in the distance, he heard Mr. Hummus shouting. Froggy, Froggy, help me, Mr. Hummus's voice said. My ship has been commandeered. Then fuzz and static once again. Mr. Hummus, come in. What's going on? Froggy said again into his Lego communications system. And then Froggy's worst fears came true. Because over the radio, instead of Mr. Hummus's muffled and distant voice, he heard a familiar voice. And it just so happened to be the last voice he ever wanted to hear in a situation like this. Hello, Froggy the Gator, the voice said. I have taken over your friend's ship, and there is nothing you can do about it. Froggy the Gator spoke back into his Lego communications system. It's just as I suspected, Froggy said in response. If it isn't our old nemesis, Space Pirate Gershwin. Ha 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 ha, the voice said back to Froggy. That's right, it is I, Space Pirate Gershwin, and I am commandeering this ship so that I can have control of the space station once and for all. Oh no, this is bad, Froggy thought to himself, and he shouted back into his communications system. Mr. Hummus, Froggy shouted, are you okay? At least let me know that you're okay. But Space Pirate Gershwin interrupted. He's fine, Froggy the Gator, but he's staying up here with me in outer space forever. Froggy knew what he had to do. He jumped into action, and he started building. Froggy the Gator ran around his backyard as fast as he could, picking up all of his best remaining Lego pieces. After a few minutes that passed by in a blur, Froggy the Gator had assembled a magnificent, fast, and formidable Lego spaceship of his own. He strapped on his Lego helmet, sat behind the imaginary Lego steering wheel of his Lego spaceship, and blasted off into space to help rescue his friend. The spaceship pierced through the Earth's atmosphere at astonishing speed. Froggy had assembled it with expert precision. Every piece served a purpose. He had Lego thrusters shooting out imaginary fire. He had silver Lego wings keeping the ship balanced. He had a black Lego nose cone that helped the ship stay aerodynamic and hurtle through space. And after a few minutes, Froggy the Gator found Mr. Hummus's ship, the ship that had been overrun by the space pirate Gershwin. Froggy docked his Lego ship and boarded the imperiled vessel. As he walked on board, it was dark. Space pirate Gershwin must have cut the power. Blast him, Froggy thought to himself. But he pulled out his trusty Lego flashlight and it lit the way. He went through the long, narrow, twisty hallways of the Lego ship until he reached the control room. And there he saw him. It was Space Pirate Gershwin, and he had Mr. Hummus captive in the control room as well. "I found you," Froggy the Gator said. "Now give me back my friend." "We don't want any trouble, Space Pirate Gershwin, but I can't let you keep Mr. Hummus here. We have to get home because my mother is making tacos tonight." "Mwahahaha," Space Pirate Gershwin said. "You'll never get off of this ship." Froggy looked over at Mr. Hummus. Mr. Hummus was scared. "Help me, Froggy," he yelled. "Help me get off this ship so we can go home and eat tacos." Then Froggy had an idea. He remembered. He was the one who built this ship. He assembled the Legos of the ship that they were currently on. And that means he, Froggy the Gator, knew the ship better than anyone else. And he remembered he'd built an emergency eject button that just so happened to be right where Space Pirate Gershwin stood. Froggy the Gator leapt into action, and he dove for the eject button, which was a big red Lego button on the command deck. And as he pressed it, immediately the captain's seat sprung up. The ejection was activated, and Space Pirate Gershwin flew up into the space above, ejected from his commandeered ship, and sent soaring into the sky. "No!" Space Pirate Gershwin yelled as he flew into the dark reaches of space, no longer able to keep Mr. Hummus captive. Froggy the Gator ran over to his friend. "Are you okay, Mr. Hummus?" Froggy asked. "You gave me a real scare there, you know." "I'm okay, Froggy," Mr. Hummus said, "and that was quick thinking with the eject button. Great work. Now, let's get out of here. I'm hungry, and I bet if we leave now, we can make it home in time to eat some of your mom's delicious tacos." "Captain's log," Froggy the Gator said into a pretend Starship space recorder. "This is day 100 of our interstellar warp speed flight, and given the recent radiation readings from our X-ray telescope, Wormbird, Mr. Hummus, and I are approaching the mighty black hole." "Thrusters engaged," Mr. Hummus yelled up to Froggy. "Ignition is imminent." "Great work, Mr. Hummus," Captain Froggy said. "Full speed ahead into the unknown." You see, the boys were pretending to be space travelers from the year 3550, when light-speed space travel was a commercially viable enterprise. And today, at long last, they were going to be the first manned space crew to ever venture close enough to a black hole, for research purposes, of course, to determine how black holes actually work. Froggy the Gator looked out of his imaginary captain's window at the bow of their ship. The window offered a wide, panoramic view of their interstellar surroundings. As Froggy looked out the window, he marveled at what he saw. There, scattered among the pitch-black, endless expanse of space, he saw stars, billions and billions of stars, some clustered together, some standing alone, shining bright. He also saw neighboring galaxies, specifically the Andromeda Galaxy, with a diameter 200,000 light-years across, a mighty powerful spiral of gas and stars and untold mysteries. In the distance, he also saw nebulas, or is it nebulae? But anyway, he saw vast clouds of gas and dust where new stars were being born. And then, straight ahead, Froggy saw what they'd been searching for. Or more accurately, he didn't see it, because he saw nothing. The absence of all light and material objects, a black, empty hole in the very fabric of space before them. "Wormbird, Mr. Hummus, I believe we found our black hole," Froggy said. "It's dead ahead. We'll be experiencing its gravitational pull any moment now." And just as Froggy said that, their ship's alarms began blaring. "Event horizon breached. Event horizon breached," the ship's robot intercom said. "Black hole suction is now imminent and unavoidable." "Hold on tight, boys," Froggy yelled. "Here we go." And just like that, the ship began hurtling toward the black hole. The boys buckled their seatbelts and held on as tight as they could to their armrests and their controls as the ship barreled ahead into the unknown. Then something strange started happening. Froggy looked around, and he noticed that the ship was actually stretching out like a piece of bubblegum or a piece of rubber, longer and longer as they got closer to the black hole. In fact, everything started stretching. Everything started expanding and extending. "Well, what's happening, Froggy?" Wormbird yelled, as his dragonfly wings stretched out to 5 times their normal size. "We're experiencing the mighty gravity of the black hole, boys. It's sucking us up faster than our atoms can acclimate. We are literally being stretched into thin, skinny pieces." They all stretched farther and farther, and just when they thought that they would surely snap and spin off toward the black hole uncontrollably, everything stopped. Everything just became still. The ship was still, Froggy and his friends were still, and everything was back to its normal size. And what's even more strange, they were all floating inside their ship, and outside the window, instead of the black emptiness of the black hole, they saw nothing but bright white light, with strange orbs of all different colors rotating around the ship outside their window. "What is happening?" Mr. Hummus said. Froggy quickly oriented himself. "Fellas," Froggy said, "this is actually just as I expected. You see, we've breached the event horizon of the black hole, and we are now actually inside the black hole, and we've become part of the singularity. We are now in the quantum realm." "The quantum realm?" Wormbird said. "Well, what is that, Froggy?" Froggy the Gator got serious. "I knew this would happen," he said. "Nobody ever knew what was at the center of a black hole, but we discovered it, boys. We discovered that the center of a black hole is a portal to the quantum realm." Froggy continued on. "See, the quantum realm is where everything is tiny, and I mean really, really tiny. It's smaller than anything we've ever seen on Earth. It's the size of atoms, and it's even smaller than that. And now that we're in the quantum realm, we can do some really cool things. For example, we can be in 2 places at once." And Froggy snapped his fingers, and he seemed to multiply himself. There were now 6 Froggies, all scattered around the ship, and when Froggy snapped his fingers again, there was just 1 of him. Froggy continued, "We can teleport through walls, too." And with that, Froggy sped toward the ship's side, ran through it, and ran right back in. And most interestingly of all, Froggy said, we can move things with our minds in the quantum realm. Froggy focused all of his energy at Wormbird and lifted Wormbird up toward the top of the ship before putting him down again. Okay, this all sounds great, Froggy, Wormbird said. But now that we're here, how do we get out? My mom is making lasagna tonight, and I don't want to miss dinner because I was stuck in the quantum realm. Don't worry, gentlemen, Froggy said. Just as I suspected we might end up in the quantum realm, I also packed my special, legendary quantum peanut. And with that, Froggy lifted the magical quantum peanut out of his spacesuit pocket. The quantum peanut, in case you forgot, was a magical peanut. Like, yes, it was the kind of peanut that you can eat, but it also held all of the secrets to the quantum universe. Froggy pointed the quantum peanut above his head, and all of a sudden, the peanut emitted magical beams of light, allowing the boys to expand and multiply their own atoms at an amazing rate. The quantum peanut kept worrying, and as the boys and their ship expanded, suddenly they found themselves thrust from the black hole, spit out like a bad grape, hurtling back into the normal realm of space-time. Whew, Mr. Hummus said. We made it. Froggy gazed at his quantum peanut. It slowly stopped glowing now that they were in the normal realm, and so Froggy placed it back into his pocket for safekeeping for the next time it was needed. The boys took their seats back on the ship. Captain's log, Froggy the Gator said. We traversed the mighty black hole. Inside, we found a portal to the quantum realm, which we must surely explore at length again soon. In the meantime, we are headed home. Because Wormbird's mother made lasagna, she always makes extra, and this space travel has made us all hungry. It was a bright and sunny Saturday afternoon in Froggy the Gator's backyard. Froggy, Mr. Hummus, and their other best friend, Wormbird, were all lounging around after an exhausting game of tag. As they looked up at the sky, they noticed something. Today was one of those rare days when you could see the moon in the sky even though it was daytime. And this gave Froggy an idea. Fellas, look at the moon up there. Have you ever thought about what it would be like to fly to the moon? To land on the moon and to walk around on the moon? What if we were the first kids to ever do it? And with that, the three best friends sprung into action. They spent hours constructing a makeshift rocket from old cardboard delivery boxes, duct tape, permanent markers, and pure imagination. When they'd finished, the rocket stood tall in Froggy's backyard, a testament to their engineering skills and ready to make its maiden voyage to the stars. As the boys got situated inside their rocket ship, Wormbird offered a countdown to liftoff. Then, all of a sudden, their rocket ship's engines ignited, and they were lifted off the ground, speeding toward the top of the Earth's atmosphere. As they flew up, Froggy and his friends looked down at Froggy's backyard. It was now a tiny speck. Then gradually it became smaller and smaller until they could see all of Gator Grove, then all of the entire Earth itself. We made it, boys, Froggy said. We're in the atmosphere. The boys looked out of their rocket ship windows into the expanse of space. They saw huge cloud nebulas, all different colors, exploding off into the distance. They saw the asteroid belt that circled between Mars and Jupiter. And they saw more stars than they'd ever seen before from Earth, all through their rocket ship windows as they catapulted toward the moon. After a few hours of flight, The boys landed on the moon. Once they were there, they put on their spacesuits and prepared for the first moonwalk ever to be completed by kids their age. This was a momentous occasion. Mr. Hummus, grab our flag. We have to plant it in the moon so that everyone knows we made this incredible trip, Froggy said. Mr. Hummus grabbed the imaginary flag. On it was written, "The three best friends were here." But just as Mr. Hummus was about to plant the flag, something happened. Off in the distance, they saw a looming but familiar figure. You see, in space there is no sound. Or maybe there's more sound since there's no air. Froggy wasn't sure in his imagination, but he was sure of what he saw. "Oh no," Froggy said, as he pointed at the menacing figure in the distance. "It's Moon Man Gershwin! He's beaten us to the moon, and he's already built his own moon base!" The boys stared in awe at Moon Man Gershwin's, remember, Gershwin is Froggy's stuffed alligator, if you'll recall, Moon Man Gershwin's base. It was like a massive space station stuck onto the side of the moon. There were many ships circling all around it, buzzing back and forth, and lights pulling energy from the inside of the moon's surface. Moon Man Gershwin approached the boys and let out a laugh. "Ha ha ha, boys, you're too late. I'm already implementing my dastardly plan. I'm already draining power from the moon so that it extinguishes and can light the earth no more." The boys looked at each other. They couldn't believe what was happening. Wormbird put his hands on his face. "What are we gonna do, guys? We can't let him extinguish the moon." "Don't worry, Wormbird. Don't worry, Mr. Hummus," Froggy said. "I have an idea. We have to use our wits, we have to use our courage, and most importantly, we have to use our teamwork." The boys huddled together and Froggy quickly explained his plan. "Ready?" he said. The other kids nodded in agreement. "Good. Let's go." And as soon as Froggy said the word go, Wormbird flew up into the air with his insect wings. You see, Wormbird's wings were much more like a dragonfly's wings than a bird's wings. So he flew up into the air and began circling around Moon Man Gershwin, distracting him. As Wormbird flew in circles above Gershwin's head, Froggy and Mr. Hummus ran toward the moon base. Once they got inside, they saw the source of the moon base's power. A big switch that controlled the energy draining that would ultimately extinguish the moon. "There it is," Froggy said, and the boys lunged at it and flipped it into the off position. Then they smashed it with a huge moon rock they found lying around so that nobody could ever turn the switch on again. Back outside, Moon Man Gershwin realized that his plan was foiled. "No! You kids foiled me again!" he screamed. Victorious, the three friends climbed back into their rocket ship and flew back towards Earth. On the ride back, the boys celebrated. They stared out the windows and counted the stars and recalled the tale of how they foiled Moon Man Gershwin's dastardly plan to extinguish the moon by sucking out all of its energy. "Can you believe that, fellas?" Froggy the Gator said. "What an adventure and what a day." Slowly, the rocket ship made its way back into Earth's atmosphere. Froggy and the other boys slowly became reacclimated to the atmospheric pressure on Earth. As they did, one by one, the boys stepped out of the rocket ship and continued to play games in Froggy's backyard. That night, at Froggy's favorite part of the night, Daddy the Gator peeked his head in Froggy's room. "Good night, son. Did you have a fun day today?" Daddy the Gator asked as he walked towards Froggy's curtains to close them. Well, now wait a minute, Dad. Can you leave the curtains open tonight? Froggy said as he stared out the window to the big moon shining down brightly from the sky. I want to enjoy the light of the moon. You know, we shouldn't take it for granted because it almost disappeared today, Froggy said. Daddy the Gator just smiled. What an imagination you've got, son. But you're right. We shouldn't take things for granted in our life just because they're always there. We should be grateful for all of the things that help our world work. And the moon is certainly one of them. Good night, son. I love you, and I'll leave your curtain open so that you can see the moon. In the cozy, cluttered playroom of Froggy the Gator's house, Froggy and his best friend, Mr. Hummus, were deep in an ambitious project. Today's goal was clear. They were going to build the tallest block tower that they possibly could. Piece by piece, they carefully added blocks, and each block they added made their tower climb higher and higher. Their eyes gleamed with determination and excitement, but in their minds, this wasn't just any old block tower. No, no, no. This was a colossal structure, reaching far beyond the confines of Froggy the Gator's playroom and extending into the vast expanse of space. In Froggy and Mr. Hummus's vibrant imaginations, they were master builders, constructing a massive skyscraper that pierced the atmosphere and touched the stars. Their blocks, one by one, slowly transformed into steel beams and glass windows, creating an architectural marvel that dwarfed the tallest buildings anywhere else on Earth. As they continued building, their skyscraper began to encounter the wonders of space. The first thing Froggy and Mr. Hummus saw was a bustling space station filled with astronauts from all around the world. Froggy and Mr. Hummus imagined meeting the astronauts, who were amazed by the young builders and their impressive tower. The astronauts from all over the world even invited Froggy and Mr. Hummus to join them for a zero-gravity game of catch. Beyond the space station, Froggy and Mr. Hummus encountered a group of friendly aliens from a distant galaxy. These aliens had bright green skin and 4 eyes on their head, but they were friendly and they were curious. Froggy and Mr. Hummus imagined teaching the aliens about Earth while learning about the aliens' home planet. They even added a block to the tower that represented their new intergalactic friendship with the alien species. As Froggy and Mr. Hummus continued to build, their tower stretched higher and higher and higher. And soon, before they knew it, Froggy and Mr. Hummus saw a grand spaceship cruising through the cosmos. They imagined boarding the spaceship, being shown around by the captain, and gazing at distant galaxies and unknown stars from the spaceship's observation deck. The spaceship actually became a part of their tower, a symbol of their journey and of their discovery. The world they built in their imaginations was filled with friendships, knowledge, and adventures. It was a testament to their creativity and to their courage and their shared love for the extraordinary. Froggy and Mr. Hummus made friends with aliens. They boarded a massive spaceship. They climbed into the cosmos to see the wonders of the universe. But then, disaster struck. All of a sudden, before they knew what was happening, Froggy and Mr. Hummus's towering skyscraper began to shake. It seemed like a monstrous enemy was attacking their beautiful creation. Froggy and Mr. Hummus watched in horror as their imaginary world of wonder began to crumble. Brick by brick, beam by beam, their space station began crumbling and falling down. The aliens that they had just made friends with screamed, "Froggy, Mr. Hummus, help us!" as their ships careened all across the atmosphere. The planets that they saw gazed on in wonder as the massive tower in the distance crumbled and started to fall. Froggy and Mr. Hummus's spaceship, with the captain on board, careened out of control and ran into an asteroid belt. The entire beautiful world that they had built in their imaginations was threatening to fall apart. What had happened? How could this be possible? Well, back in reality, the true cause of this calamity was revealed. As it turned out, Froggy's little brother, Baby the Gator, had toddled into the room and in his curiosity had knocked the block tower over, causing it to tumble down. When Froggy realized what had happened, at first he felt a surge of frustration. Froggy and Mr. Hummus's hard work, their adventure, their magnificent tower, it was all ruined. But then he looked at Baby the Gator. He looked at his little brother. Baby the Gator's eyes showed a little bit of fear. He was just trying to play with his big brother. He was just trying to be part of the fun. So with a sigh, Froggy knelt down to Baby the Gator's level. "Baby, my little bro, you can't just knock down our tower," he explained gently. "But I'll tell you what you can do. You can help us build it back. Would you like that?" All of a sudden, Baby the Gator's face lit up. He clapped his little hands excitedly, and with newfound resolve, Froggy, Mr. Hummus, and Baby the Gator began to rebuild their tower. Before long, the tower was back into the cosmos. The alien friends that they had met welcomed them back with their new compadre, Baby the Gator, on board. Ships from outer space began buzzing around, and they threw a grand outer space parade for the heroes of the universe, Froggy the Gator, Mr. Hummus, and their friend, Baby the Gator. That day, Froggy learned a valuable lesson about patience and about understanding. Froggy's little brother, Baby the Gator, wasn't a nuisance. He was just eager to join in and learn. And Froggy realized that some of his best adventures could be had right there at home, building block towers with his best friend and with his little brother. That night, as Froggy lay down to sleep, Daddy the Gator peeked his head in Froggy's room. This was one of Froggy's favorite parts of the day, when his dad came in to say goodnight. "How was your day today, son?" Daddy the Gator asked. "Well," Froggy said, "I learned a lot. Mr. Hummus and I flew into outer space. We built a tower as tall as the atmosphere. We met beings from distant galaxies and forged bonds of friendship. We flew on a magnificent spaceship and met the captain, and he gave us a tour of the gallery windows. But I also learned something else important. I learned that it's my job to watch out for Baby the Gator when he's playing with us. He just wants to be included, and he just wants to feel like he's a part of it. And I'll always remember now that when it comes to little brothers, they're going to want to do the things that I like to do, and I should embrace that and help him learn." "That sounds pretty good, Froggy," Daddy the Gator said. "Good night, son, and I'm proud of you for telling me that." Froggy the Gator, Mr. Hummus, Wormbird, and Tomato Hedgehog were doing one of their favorite activities in Froggy the Gator's backyard. What activity is that, you ask? Well, they were playing Superpowers, of course, and in their minds, they had concocted quite the scenario. Come in, Mr. Hummus, Froggy said into his pretend radio transmitter. Mr. Hummus, we have contact with the foreign object. I'm gonna need backup before I get any closer. Copy that, Froggy, Mr. Hummus replied. We're putting on our protective gear now. And the four friends all put on pretend hazmat suits, which are like suits that you wear that protect you from hazardous chemicals or unknown substances. They also shined their pretend flashlights, and the four friends lined up, facing the big oak tree in Froggy's yard. In their minds, the scene was really coming together. What do you think it is? Froggy the Gator asked his friends. Should we touch it? I don't want to get too close. Well, we gotta figure out what it is, Wormbird said. Here, I'll go first. And Wormbird took a few cautious steps toward the mysterious object. It was sitting there in Froggy's yard, and it must have been 20 feet wide. It looked like a rock, but it was one of the biggest rocks any of the guys had ever seen. And it was smoking, steaming, like it was really hot. Plus, it was giving off some strange green glow, as if somebody had painted it with glow paint. Wormbird bravely stepped closer to the rock. Fellas, Wormbird said into his pretend radio transmitter, I can confirm we have an object of extraterrestrial origin here. This appears to be a meteorite. I can't speculate from which galaxy it arrived, but it has crash-landed here on Earth, and that is confirmed. Whoa, said Froggy the Gator into his radio transmitter. I've always wanted to see a real meteorite. A meteorite, in case you don't know, is a rock from outer space. There are rocks flying all over outer space, and a meteorite is what lands on Earth when one of those rocks breaks through our atmosphere and blasts toward the planet. This is a great day for discovery, Froggy the Gator said. Let's investigate further. So the four friends stepped toward the meteorite, and each of them reached out a hand to touch it. As soon as they did, the strange green glow got brighter. It enveloped everything around them, and despite their pretend hazmat suits, the glow covered the boys up almost immediately. As it did, they noticed something strange happening. Froggy, Mr. Hummus shouted, what's going on? As the strange glow from the meteorite spread out brighter and further by the second. I think, Froggy the Gator responded, I think this meteorite is giving us superpowers! And with that, all of the boys started transforming into their superpower selves. Froggy the Gator became, as he always does, Froggy the Fire Match, able to harness fire and fly and shoot flames out of his fists. Mr. Hummus became, as he always does, the Ice King, able to control ice and fly also, and create ice bridges under his feet that he could slide on super fast like a bobsledder. Wormbird transformed too, and he became the Mantis, which, if you didn't know, gave him the power of X-ray vision and also the power to fly really, really fast. Finally, Tomato Hedgehog transformed into his superpowered alter ego. He became Captain Tomato, and he had the power to shoot out tomatoes from big cannons on his back, blasting any foe that dared get close. Oh my gosh, said Tomato Hedgehog, the meteorite gave us superpowers. This must be some kind of radioactive mutation, he said. And the four friends started showing off their powers and doing cool tricks like shooting fire and ice, and flying around in the air and doing flips, using X-ray vision, and firing off tomatoes like a bazooka. Everything was going great until Froggy the Gator paused and noticed something. Guys, Froggy the Gator said, this meteorite may have given us superpowers, but that's not all it did. Look. And Froggy the Gator pointed at the ground around the meteorite, which had started to open up, as if there was a huge earthquake, a massive chasm splitting in the ground going all the way down to the center of the earth. Then they heard an unmistakable roar sound coming from deep within the chasm, and the next thing they knew, out of the chasm arose a huge, ferocious beast. He was green and scaly like a giant lizard, but he must have been 500 feet tall. and he stomped around on the ground in Froggy's backyard, shooting lightning bolts out of his mouth like some kind of electric dragon. "Oh no," Froggy the Gator said. "The meteorite, it must have awoken Godzilla Gershwin!" And with that, Godzilla Gershwin roared a loud roar and shot more electricity out of his mouth as he stomped around and started making a huge mess in Froggy's backyard. "What are we gonna do, guys?" Wormbird said. "We have to stop Godzilla Gershwin before he destroys all of Gator Grove." "I'm not sure," Froggy the Gator said, getting really serious now. "But one thing I know for sure, we have to team up and use our powers to put a stop to him once and for all, and we have to do it fast." Then, all four friends huddled together to quickly discuss a plan. With each hero having unique powers, their best bet was to combine their strengths. "Froggy," Mr. Hummus said, "why don't you distract Godzilla Gershwin with your flames? Make sure you keep him busy." So Froggy nodded and flew into the air, shooting flames in the direction of the giant creature. The flames danced around Godzilla Gershwin's feet, capturing his attention. He roared in anger, trying to swat Froggy away, but Froggy the Gator, the fire match, was too quick. Meanwhile, Mr. Hummus, as the Ice King, started to create an icy pathway right under the huge beast. "If we can make him slip," the Ice King said, "he might just be stunned enough for us to trap him." Then Wormbird, using his X-ray vision as the Mantis, tried to locate a weak point in Godzilla Gershwin. Finally he shouted, "Guys, it's his tail! His tail is his weak spot! We need to concentrate there!" Then Tomato Hedgehog, hearing Wormbird, began shooting his powerful tomatoes straight at the beast's tail. The tomatoes exploded on impact, causing Godzilla Gershwin to roar in pain and frustration. Each tomato made the creature more disoriented, causing him to stumble on the icy ground that Mr. Hummus had created. Finally, as Godzilla Gershwin was off balance, Froggy the Gator and Wormbird combined their powers. Froggy shot a stream of fire, and Wormbird used his super fast flying to create a wind tunnel. Together, they created what was a fiery tornado that encircled the creature and trapped him inside. All of a sudden, the once fierce Godzilla Gershwin was reduced to a tired, whimpering creature trapped inside the fire tornado. Froggy landed next to the fire tornado and said to his friends, "We did it, guys, but we need to be careful, because with great power comes great responsibility." The other friends nodded, and at that moment they decided that while having superpowers was fun, it also meant they had to be responsible and use those powers wisely. So they promised each other to always work together in keeping Gator Grove safe from any dangers that arised. "Come in, Mr. Hummus. Do you read me? Do you hear me in your comms device?" Froggy the Gator said into his pretend spaceship microphone. "Yes, Captain Froggy," Mr. Hummus replied, "loud and clear. And I have the power source at my disposal. It is ready to engage." "Excellent, Mr. Hummus," Froggy the Gator responded. "I have my power source as well. Ignition on my countdown. 3, 2, 1, ignite!" And just like that, Froggy the Gator flicked his prized blue marble toward Mr. Hummus's favorite golden marble. The marbles collided in Froggy the Gator's backyard, where the guys were pretending the marbles were powerful engine cores for their spaceships on an intergalactic mission, and they made a familiar click sound as they hit each other and bounced backward. "Hooray!" Froggy cheered into his pretend space microphone. "Mission success! The power cores are activated. Now we are ready to begin our journey onto the vast expanse of space and explore our solar system." But just then, their celebration was interrupted. Daddy the Gator stood on the back porch and called the boys inside. "Hey guys, we made some peanut butter sandwiches for you. Why don't you take a break from playing marbles and come on inside and get a snack?"
So Froggy the Gator quickly jumped up and started walking inside. Mr. Hummus was a few seconds behind him, and Froggy looked back to see the holdup. "Hey, Mr. Hummus, what are you doing? Let's go eat these sandwiches so we can get back to our game." "1 second, Froggy. I'm collecting the marbles right now. I'm collecting our power sources, that is." Froggy paused for a second and thought about his prized blue marble. This particular blue marble just so happened to be one of his favorite possessions. It was a shooter marble, which means it's bigger than other marbles, and it was blue, of course, but it was more than that. It was made out of pristine, smooth glass, and if you looked at it, you could see what looked like an entire galaxy inside of it. There were blue swirls and yellow swirls and black and white stripes. It was truly magical to behold, and sometimes Froggy the Gator would pull it out of the bag just to look at it and imagine the world living inside his blue galaxy marble. "Okay, that sounds good, Mr. Hummus," Froggy said as he stopped daydreaming about his blue marble. Froggy the Gator walked inside, and Mr. Hummus joined him a few seconds later as they sat down to eat their peanut butter sandwiches. After a few minutes, they were done with their sandwiches. "Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Mom, for the sandwiches," Froggy the Gator said to his parents. "Yeah, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Gator," Mr. Hummus echoed, and the two friends walked back outside to the backyard. They went to their respective bags of marbles to continue their imaginary space adventure. But when Froggy picked up his bag, something was wrong. It felt light. It felt like something was missing. So he dumped it out on the grass in the backyard, and all of his marbles fell out in a shower of smooth, round glass onto the ground. He sorted through his marbles. He saw his red ones, his yellow ones, his orange and purple and silver marbles, but he immediately noticed something was missing. His big blue shooter, his favorite marble ever, with the entire galaxy inside of it, was missing. "Mr. Hummus, where's my blue marble? Where's my blue galaxy marble? Our fuel cell for our mission. I left it right here, but now it's gone. Where'd it go?" Mr. Hummus was just as surprised as Froggy. "I don't know, Froggy," Mr. Hummus said. "I swore I put all the marbles back in the right bags before we went inside, but here, check my bag." And as he did, Froggy the Gator opened up Mr. Hummus's bag of marbles, and to his surprise, a blue shooter marble with what looked like a galaxy inside of it fell out onto the ground. Froggy stared at the marble on the ground. Then he looked up at Mr. Hummus. He couldn't believe it. It seemed like Mr. Hummus had taken Froggy's marble. "Mr. Hummus," Froggy said as he picked up the blue marble, "this is mine. Why'd you put it in your bag? You know this is my favorite marble." And Mr. Hummus was alarmed as well. "Froggy, I know that looks like your marble, but you gotta believe me. That particular blue marble is mine. My dad gave it to me a couple of weeks ago. I know it looks just like yours, but this one's mine and I brought it from home." Froggy held up the marble and inspected it. It really did look exactly like Froggy's missing blue marble. "No way," Froggy said angrily to Mr. Hummus. "This is definitely mine. I can't believe you would take my marble. I thought we were best friends," Froggy shouted, his voice raising in disbelief and shock. "Froggy, I'm telling you, that's not your marble. It's mine from home," Mr. Hummus said as he tried to grab it back from Froggy's hand. The boys began tussling and raising their voices at each other, loud enough for Daddy the Gator to hear what was happening and to come outside. Boys, Daddy the Gator said, "what's going on here?" "Well, Dad," Froggy the Gator said, "Mr. Hummus took my marble. He took my favorite marble, but now he's saying it's not mine. He's saying it's his from home." Daddy the Gator then looked at Mr. Hummus, who replied, "That's because it is mine from home, Froggy. It's not yours, even though I know it looks like it." Then the boys started tugging on the marble again, and Daddy the Gator had to step in to separate them. "Okay, guys, hang on a minute," Daddy the Gator said. "In my experience, when something like this happens, it's usually just a misunderstanding. Froggy, have you retraced your steps to make sure that your marble is actually missing? Have you checked everywhere? Like, what about your pockets? Did you look for your marble before accusing your friend? So Froggy took a deep breath and looked around. He didn't see his marble anywhere on the ground. He didn't see it hidden under any leaves or under any rocks or anything like that. Then he felt on his sides, in his pants pocket, and that's when he felt it. He checked inside his left pant pocket, and sure enough, right there was his favorite blue marble. Mr. Hummus was telling the truth. Froggy must have put his marble in his pocket without realizing it before they went inside to eat sandwiches. "Oh man," said Froggy, "I feel awful," he said to his friend Mr. Hummus. "I had my marble the whole time. Your blue marble, even though it looks like mine, really is yours. I'm sorry I accused you of something you didn't do, Mr. Hummus. Can you forgive me?" Mr. Hummus nodded. "Of course I forgive you, Froggy," because, truthfully, he was just as relieved as Froggy that the marble had been found. Daddy the Gator just smiled. "Great job, fellas. See, Froggy, it's important to give our friends the benefit of the doubt. Usually, the simplest explanation is the right explanation. In this case, you simply misplaced your marble. Now, I know some spaceships that need fueling, so why don't you guys get back to work and let me know once you've reached the edge of the galaxy." Our story today was co-written by our listeners, Gunnar and Landon, who are 6 and 4 years old, respectively. If you want to help co-write an episode, head over to Spotify and share your episode idea in the Q&A attached to this episode. Now, you may not know this, but Froggy the Gator and his friends were really interested in a certain intellectual property about galaxies and heroes and swords made out of light. I'm not going to mention the name of this intellectual property for legal reasons, but you may or may not have heard of it. Anyway, they had just watched a film about the Star Saga, and they were in Froggy the Gator's backyard, imagining they were the stars of the adventure. Froggy the Gator called out to his friends, Mr. Hummus, Baby the Gator, Tomato Hedgehog, and Wormbird, as Daddy the Gator watched and smiled from the back porch. "Okay, gentlemen," Froggy the Gator said, "our story begins in the swampy expanses of Gator Grove. A great adventure awaits for our hero, a young gator named Luke Frogwalker. Luke has always dreamed of something beyond his current life as a swamp farmer, and he spent his days looking at the stars, imagining what might await for him and his destiny. One day, Luke Frogwalker is walking around the swamp, as he typically did, and he saw a couple of strange-looking robot creatures. One was called R2-Hedge2, and one was called Worm3PO. And Wormbird and Tomato Hedgehog pointed to each other as Froggy told the story and said, "Hey, that's us." And Froggy continued on. Inside the android called R2-Hedge2, Luke Frogwalker found a mysterious message from somebody called Princess Terra Pterodactyl, who was being held captive by the famous villain known across the galaxy as Darth Gershwin. Luke Frogwalker, joined by his new friends, R2-Hedge2 and Worm3PO, took the message to the only person they could think of who might be able to help, the wise old man Daddywan the Gator, who lived on the outskirts of Gator Grove. When they arrived at Daddywan the Gator's humble dwelling, Daddywan tells the group all about Darth Gershwin and all about the mean old plans that Darth Gershwin has for the galaxy. "Whoa, we gotta do something, Daddywan," Luke Frogwalker said. "We can't let Princess Terra stay stuck there. We gotta help." So the 4 unlikely friends set out to find a spaceship so they could go rescue the princess and defeat Darth Gershwin once and for all. They began a journey to the local flea market, which is kind of like the state fair, where space pirates and people from all over the galaxy traded and refueled their spaceships. When they got there, they saw a strange hairy beast that Luke Frogwalker had never seen before. The beast's name was Chew Hummus. And when Froggy said that, Mr. Hummus, back in the real world, smiled and shouted, "Hey, that's me!" "That's right, Mr. Hummus," Froggy said, and he continued on with his story. They met a strange beast named Chew Hummus and his fearless captain, Han Baby. And with that, back in the regular Gator Grove, Baby the Gator's ears perked up, and he let out a proud and confident babble as he heard his part in the story. And Froggy continued on. Han Baby and Chew Hummus had a powerful spaceship called the Millennium Lily Pad, and they agreed to let Luke Frogwalker and Daddy Wan and the two robots use their spaceship to go rescue Princess Terra. So they all get on the Millennium Lily Pad and they fly to the big, hulking spaceship where Princess Terra is being held captive. They have to disguise themselves as swamp trash to get past the guards, and they're able to get inside the ship, where they see Princess Terra waiting for them. "Quick," Luke Frogwalker told his friends, "you all distract the guards. I'll go inside and rescue the princess." So Han Baby and Chew Hummus bravely fought off the spaceship guards, while Daddy Wan and the androids also helped and did some stuff, and before long, Princess Terra was free. "Oh, Luke Frogwalker," she said, "and Daddy Wan the Gator, you've saved me." But there wasn't much time to celebrate, because the princess had even more disturbing news. "You're not gonna believe this," Princess Terra said, "but Darth Gershwin is actually building an even bigger spaceship than this one, and it has the power to take out the entire galaxy. We gotta make sure that spaceship is never operational." "Oh boy," Luke Frogwalker said, "that sounds bad, but don't worry, because we're the biggest heroes ever, and we're gonna make sure that everything is okay." So they all fly together on the Millennium Lily Pad to a secret base, where there are a lot of other people who also want to stop Darth Gershwin's plans as well. And when they get there, believe it or not, they actually see a bunch of dinosaurs. And with that, Mr. Hummus interrupted Froggy's story. "Wait a minute, Froggy," Mr. Hummus said. "I don't remember dinosaurs from the movie we watched." "I know, Mr. Hummus," Froggy said, "but this was the part that Landon wanted in the story, so we're gonna do it anyway." And so they saw all the dinosaurs, and they all got to actually ride on the dinosaurs all across the Rebel planet. And Luke Frogwalker rode a huge blue Brontosaurus, and Chew Hummus rode a speedy purple Velociraptor, and R2-Hedge2 and Worm 3PO got to ride on a really cool underwater Chronosaurus. And after they all got done riding the dinosaurs, Daddy Wan the Gator told Luke Frogwalker, "Luke, your dinosaur riding training is now complete, and you are ready to face Darth Gershwin." So the team flies to Darth Gershwin's secret new big spaceship. And when they get there, Daddy Wan the Gator goes and battles his old nemesis, Darth Gershwin. Darth Gershwin was tall, he was wearing all black, and he had a big gator-shaped helmet that made a wheezing sound whenever he breathed. "You're never going to escape my ship," Darth Gershwin called out to Daddy Wan the Gator, as the two of them battled using, well, swords that were, how should I say, made out of light. And meanwhile, Luke Frogwalker, using his dinosaur riding powers that Daddy Wan the Gator had taught him, flies a huge space pterodactyl right at Darth Gershwin's new space station ship. The pterodactyl sent out a loud roar, and with that, the ship exploded and the galaxy was saved. And all you could hear, after the explosion of course, was a loud "No!" from Darth Gator, as his dreams of ruling the galaxy were put on hold. And so the team all returned to Gator Grove as heroes. Luke Frogwalker, Chew Hummus, Han Baby, Worm 3PO, and R2-Hedge2
all received medals of bravery from Princess Terra for their heroic performance in stopping Darth Gator. "Thank all of you brave guys," Princess Terra said, as the whole crowd erupted in cheers now that the galaxy had been saved. "You were our only hope, and you came through in the end." And with that, back in Gator Grove, Froggy bowed to his friends, who had all been on the edge of their seats the whole time. Then, they all got on their pretend dinosaurs, and they rode around Froggy the Gator's backyard until it was time to go inside and have some lasagna, cooked especially by Mommy the Gator, because all of this playing and imagining and dinosaur riding and space pirate fighting had made the friends hungry. That's the end of today's episode, and remember, if you like Froggy the Gator and you want to help the show, please give us a 5-star review on your podcast app of choice. It takes just a couple of seconds, so if you haven't done it yet, please get your parents' permission and make sure that you've rated us 5 stars. Until next time, we'll talk soon. Our story today begins in the icy swamps of Gator Hoth, a strange icy planet with frozen swamps and otherworldly creatures roaming through the icy, steamy topography. Our heroes, Luke Frogwalker, Han Baby, Worm 3PO, R2 Hedge 2, and Princess Terra are all hiding out on this icy, swampy planet as they prepare to confront Darth Gershwin's forces after they destroyed his special starship in the last Star Frogs episode. And all of a sudden, the alarms on their ice swamp base start going off. It's an attack! Darth Gershwin's forces, led by tons of crazy spaceships shaped like tadpoles, start shooting their lasers at our hero's base. Luke Frogwalker and his friends fight valiantly, and they fend off the attack, but they know if they want to compete with Darth Gershwin's forces, they're going to need to train and work hard and practice and get better, since that's how you overcome any obstacle or challenge in life. So Luke Frogwalker and R2 Hedge 2 go off together in search of the one person who can train Luke Frogwalker in his dinosaur riding skills even better than Daddy Wan the Gator could. They go off in search of the wise, dinosaur riding master, the 800-year-old Sensei Gamoda. In case you forgot, Sensei Gamoda is the friend's karate instructor in the real world. So they arrive at Sensei Gamoda's planet, another swampy planet, but this one is called Dagobah, and they start their training. "Ah," Sensei Gamoda says when he sees Luke Frogwalker, "the dinosaur riding is strong with you. Tell, can I? Here, ride this Pachycephalosaurus. Let us see what skills have you." Well, that's kind of a weird way to talk, Froggy the Gator thought, but he started riding. And he rode all kinds of dinosaurs on Dagobah, preparing to be the dinosaur riding master he was born to be so that he could fulfill his destiny. Meanwhile, the rest of our heroes, Chew Hummus, Princess Terra, and Worm 3PO, narrowly escape Gator Hoth as they're able to fend off Gershwin's forces. And they fly on the Millennium Lily Pad, led by Han Baby, to one of Han Baby's old friends' planets. It was a city made of clouds known as Dreamworld. And when they get there, they see an entire city floating in the clouds. "Wow," says Princess Terra, "I've never seen anything like this." And Baby the Gator responds with a confident babble, and Chew Hummus roars approvingly. They land their ship, and they're met by the leader of Dreamworld, Farmer Wilbur Carl Rissian. "Hey there, Farmer Wilbur Carl Rissian," Baby the Gator says. Oh, well, we think that's what he said because he was really just babbling. And then Han Baby and Farmer Wilbur Carl Rissian give each other a big hug, and they go inside the Cloud City. But they soon realize, to their dismay, it was a trap. And Farmer Wilbur feels really bad about it, but he had actually led Darth Gershwin to our heroes the whole time. A betrayal. Because out of nowhere, there appears Darth Gershwin. "Oh no," says Princess Terra. "How'd you find us? Farmer Wilbur Calrissian, say it isn't so. Say you didn't betray us. But it's too late. Darth Gershwin storms the Dreamworld Cloud City with his henchmen, and they take Han Baby away. Babble, babble, Han Baby says, as Darth Gershwin's forces drop Han Baby into a pool of sticky slime jello. Han Baby, Terra Pterodactyl screamed. Oh my goodness, you're going to get stuck in that slime jello. And she was right. Our hero, Han Baby, sat deep in the slime jello, with a straw going to the top so that he could breathe, of course. And things looked bleak for our heroes. While all of this is going on, Luke Frogwalker is back training in dinosaur riding on the swamp planet Dagobah with Sensei Gamoda, and he's getting really good at dinosaur riding. The best dinosaur rider ever you are. Never seen anyone ride so well, have I, says Sensei Gamoda. And then, like a bolt of lightning, Luke Frogwalker has a vision. He sees the Cloud City in his mind, and then he sees Han Baby get stuck in the pool of sticky slime jello, and he sees the rest of his friends in trouble and betrayed. Sensei Gamoda, Luke Frogwalker says, I must leave. I must go rescue my friends because I know they're in trouble. Sensei Gamoda just nods. Ready you are to face Darth Gershwin, and go you must, Sensei Gamoda said. And with that, Luke flies his crazy fast pterodactyl spaceship all the way to Dreamworld Cloud City. And when he gets there, he quickly finds Darth Gershwin. Darth Gershwin, Luke yells, you've harmed my friends for the last time. You may not know this, but I've been training with Sensei Gamoda, and now I am the best dinosaur rider of all time, and I hereby challenge you to a dinosaur riding race. If you win, my friends will stay prisoner with you, but if I win, we go free. Mwahahaha, Darth Gershwin says back. There's no way your dinosaur riding can compete with mine. I trained at the Royal Academy of Dinosaur Riding at the planet Oxfordia. I am surely going to beat you, but so be it. So the two guys get on a pair of Spinosauruses, and Luke Frogwalker's Spinosaurus is named the Brave Digger, and it's kind of like Froggy's favorite monster truck back in the real world. And Darth Gershwin's Spinosaurus is named the Blue Beast, which is kind of like the other monster truck back in the real world that always goes up against the Brave Digger. And just like that, they're off. They run all around the Cloud City Dreamworld. It's a neck-and-neck race. It's anybody's to win. And then, Luke Frogwalker remembers Sensei Gamoda's wise words. When riding a dinosaur you are, Sensei Gamoda says in Froggy's mind, remember, one with the dinosaur you must become. So Froggy focuses, and he pretends he and the Brave Digger share the same brain, which is a good way to think about empathy. And the power of empathy drives the Brave Digger past the Blue Beast and wins the race. No, Darth Gershwin says, as Luke Frogwalker crosses the finish line ahead of him. And as Luke Frogwalker dismounts from his Spinosaurus, he approaches Darth Gershwin. I've beaten you, Darth Gershwin. Now you have to stay true to your word and let my friends free. That means you gotta get Han Baby out of that sticky jello. But Darth Gershwin doesn't say anything. He just wheezes in his big alligator mask back toward Luke Frogwalker. Darth Gershwin? Luke Frogwalker says. Didn't you hear me? You gotta let us go now. And finally, Darth Gershwin speaks. Luke, he says, there is something about me you don't know, and this truth will change everything. Well, what is it? Luke Frogwalker says. What are you talking about? What are you gonna tell me, that you're the big bad guy? Oh, we already knew that. No, Darth Gershwin said. I am your stuffed animal Gershwin. And with that, Luke immediately saw it. the alligator face, the plush tail sticking out from the black robe. "No," Luke said. "That's not true. That's impossible." But he knew it was true. And what made things worse, Darth Gershwin wasn't going to let his friends go. He was going back on his word. But just then, that old double-crosser Wilbur Carl Rissian comes out of nowhere, flying the Millennium Lily Pad, and rescues Princess Terra, R2-Hedge2, Worm 3PO, and helps them escape Cloud City. As the heroes regroup on the Millennium Lily Pad, they pick up Luke Frogwalker, and Princess Terra gives him the good news and the bad news. The good news is they've escaped, but the bad news, Han Baby is still trapped in the sticky slime jello. "Oh boy," says Luke Frogwalker. "Well, it seems like the swamp really struck us back this time. I guess we'll just have to figure out how to save Han Baby in the next episode. We'll have to figure out how to make a Return of the Dinosaur Riders." Welcome back, everyone, to the thrilling conclusion of our Star Frogs trilogy, inspired by a certain intellectual property that you may or may not know. And in today's installment, we pick up our action right where we left off. Han Baby is frozen in really sticky jello, with a straw sticking out of the top, of course, so that he can breathe, and Luke Frogwalker and Princess Terra have just escaped the clutches of Darth Gershwin after being first betrayed, but then rescued by Farmer Wilbur Carl Rissian. And Sensei Gamoda awaits Luke Frogwalker to complete his dinosaur riding training. We join the action inside Mrs. Weasel's Swamp Palace. And Mrs. Weasels, in case you forgot, is Froggy and Wormbird's teacher in the real world, but in the Star Frogs universe, she's a big, slimy sea slug. And she's the leader of a vast smuggling operation that's part of the Galaxy Underground. She's the one who wanted Han Baby captured in the first place, and today she's sitting in her lair with her minions and thinking of what they're going to do with our hero Han Baby as he sits in the very sticky jello. And Mrs. Weasels has also captured Princess Terra, and things are looking quite dire for our heroes. But suddenly, a mysterious figure enters the lair. Disguised as a bounty hunter, this mysterious figure uses his dinosaur riding powers to overthrow Mrs. Weasel's guards until he finds himself in the chamber where Han Baby and Princess Terra are being held. "Who is this stranger?" Mrs. Weasels demands as her sea slug body moves closer to the intruder. Then, just in the nick of time, our mysterious hero takes off his black mask to reveal, why, it's none other than Luke Frogwalker! And he's been practicing his dinosaur riding skills a lot, and so he takes out a dinosaur flute and calls for a soaring pteranodon, which is like a pterodactyl, but even bigger and with big, huge dinosaur teeth as well. He calls for a soaring pteranodon to fly in, and when he does, he rides the pteranodon straight to the straw sticking out of Han Baby's jello, and the dinosaur sucks up all the jello into his big, pelican-like mouth. And then, voila! Han Baby was free. "You did it, Luke Frogwalker! You saved Han Baby!" Princess Terra shouted. But Princess Terra was still captive, so Luke Frogwalker's work wasn't done. Then, they all went outside to a big floating pirate ship, and Mrs. Weasels was going to make them walk the space pirate plank. But now that Han Baby was released, they were able to all overpower Mrs. Weasel's henchmen and get free from her clutches just before they walked the space pirate plank. "Whew, that was a close one," Princess Terra said. "Great work, everybody." So now the whole team was back together. Han Baby, Farmer Wilbur Carl Rissian, Luke Frogwalker, Princess Terra, Worm 3PO, and R2-Hedge2. "Yeah," said Luke Frogwalker, "but this battle has taught me something. I'm still gonna need to get better in the ancient ways of dinosaur riding. So I'm gonna have to go back and visit Sensei Gamoda one more time. I'll see you guys later." So Luke Frogwalker jumps on his dinosaur rocket ship and flies to Dagobah to visit Sensei Gamoda one more time. But when Luke Frogwalker gets to Dagobah, he realizes something is wrong. The Sensei Gamoda is there, but he has a really bad tummy ache. "Oh, ache does my tummy," Sensei Gamoda said, as Luke tried to feed him some dinosaur noodle soup. "But," Sensei Gamoda continued, "finish your training you must. Strong in the ways of dinosaur riding you have become. You must now confront Darth Gershwin, not with anger, but with the calmness and courage which you have learned here. In yourself you must trust, and with you, the dinosaur riding power will be always." Then, Sensei Gamoda's tummy hurt so bad that he had to go outside. "No, Sensei Gamoda," Luke Frogwalker said, knowing that his sensei's tummy hurt too bad to help continue his training. But just then, Luke Frogwalker heard a familiar voice. "Luke," the voice said, "you must confront Darth Gershwin." "Hey," said Luke, "I recognize that voice. Is that Daddywan the Gator?" "That's right," the voice said. "It is I, Daddywan the Gator, visiting you on this astral plane, and I am here to let you know that there is another who shares your skills in dinosaur riding, another who can help you defeat Darth Gershwin." "Really?" said Luke Frogwalker. Who can help me?" "Why," the voice said, "it's Princess Terra, Luke. It turns out she's actually really good at dinosaur riding too, so you guys together need to go and save the galaxy. Now go, go, go. Don't waste any more time." So of course, not wanting to waste any more time, Luke Frogwalker got on his dinosaur rocket ship and flew to meet up with his friends. He flew all the way to the planet Sandpiper, where the rebels had assembled a base. When he got there, he shouted to Princess Terra, "Hey, Princess Terra, guess what? It turns out you're really good at dinosaur riding too. The Daddywan the Gator told me, so you should try it when it's time to fight Darth Gershwin." Then, all the friends and the rebels gathered together. Their host, Pepper the Sandpiper, leads a band of other fuzzy small sandpipers who use their primitive tools to help the good guys. They decide they must join forces, the Sandpipers and the rebels. And it was just in the nick of time, too, as Darth Gershwin's forces had discovered the base on planet Sandpiper and they began to attack. Luke Frogwalker and Han Baby and Princess Terra got on these really fast Velociraptor speed bikes, and the Sandpipers all had a bunch of rocks and sticks and stuff for self-defense, and they were all able to help each other fight off Darth Gershwin's forces. But then they realized this was just the beginning. Because you see, Darth Gershwin had also been working really hard on building a huge space station called the Swamp Star. "Alright guys, this is it," Luke Frogwalker said. "We've got to take down the Swamp Star. We kinda did it already in episode 4, but whatever, it's fine. You gotta give the writers a break every now and then. And so while we're up there, I'm going to face Darth Gershwin once and for all." So Luke Frogwalker begins to sneak around the Swamp Star until he finds Darth Gershwin. When he does, he shouts out to him, "Darth Gershwin! I know you are actually my stuffed animal, Gershwin, and now I challenge you to a dinosaur riding race to settle once and for all who is the best dinosaur rider in the galaxy." "Ha ha ha," said Darth Gershwin, "as if you could beat me." So Darth Gershwin got on his red Velociraptor, and Luke Frogwalker got on his blue Velociraptor, and they set off on a high-speed race around the Swamp Star. They did lap after lap, neck and neck, and it looked like it was anybody's race. But then, Luke Frogwalker once again heard the voice of Daddywan the Gator. "Remember, Luke, Velociraptors like to eat eggs as treats. So give your Velociraptor an egg, and he'll run much faster." So Luke gave his Velociraptor an egg that he luckily had in his pocket, and boom! Hyper speed! He won the race. With that, Darth Gershwin was defeated, and all of a sudden, he realized that he'd been wrong to be such a bad guy this whole time. "You know what, Luke?" Darth Gershwin said. "I actually want to be a good guy now." You've shown me that courage and doing what's right is actually the path to true fulfillment in life. So I am calling off my forces. I will not trouble the galaxy any more. Luke Frogwalker shook Darth Gershwin's hand, and they all returned back to the planet Sandpiper, where they had a huge celebration for saving the galaxy, and everyone lived safe and happy, knowing that the good guys, the dinosaur riders, had saved the day. The end. As you know, Froggy the Gator and his friends love dreaming about the wild reaches of the universe and the outer space that surrounds us. And oftentimes, that's exactly how they spend their afternoons. And this particular afternoon was no exception. The guys, Froggy the Gator, Mr. Hummus, Wormbird, and Tomato Hedgehog, were all outside in Froggy the Gator's backyard, pretending they were soaring around the cosmos, seeing what the universe had in store. Captain's log, Froggy the Gator said into his intercom computer speaker. We are approaching the Frog Nebula with its beautiful collapsed stardust of orange and purple and pink. It looks like some sort of giant cosmic frog jumping from lily pad to lily pad. They pretended to soar around, and they saw some other great outer space things, like a couple of black holes, and some comets with big fiery tails, and a couple of really cool asteroid belts. And then, right ahead of them, they saw something that they never would have expected to see. What in the world is that, Froggy? Mr. Hummus said, as they imagined piloting their spaceship toward the surprising sight. I don't know, I can't quite make it out, Froggy responded, so he put on his thruster boosters and sped toward the peculiar sighting. As they approached, they saw words written out in tiny stars shining through the blackness of space, like a blinking sign, beckoning them to come ever closer. Since all the guys were getting pretty good at reading, they all read the words together in unison, which means they all read the words at the same time. Welcome to the Great Space Race, the fastest ships in the galaxy. Whoa, said Tomato Hedgehog, a great space race, the fastest ships in the galaxy? This looks incredible. We gotta go watch it. We gotta go see the race, fellas. So they zipped their spaceship to the sign. As they got closer, they saw a huge floating stadium right there in the middle of outer space. They saw cheering crowds, tens of thousands of interstellar spectators, all eating cosmic popcorn and drinking Milky Way milkshakes, ready to cheer on the competitors. As they got even closer, they heard a spaceman announcer on the stadium's loudspeakers. Froggy the Gator parked their own spaceship at the side of the stadium, and they listened to the announcer speak. Welcome, everyone, to the 4,000th annual Great Space Race, the announcer said, to thunderous applause from the spectators. We are glad you're all here today, and we are excited to bring you today's competition, the announcer continued, as the guys piloted their spaceship above the stadium so they could see the action up close. In our starting positions, the announcer said, today we have the galaxy's fastest and most well-known racer. It is Spaceman race car driver Gershwin! And the crowd erupted, even though the guys couldn't believe what they were seeing. Gershwin, they all said together, in unison, again. What is he doing here? And they looked down into the stadium, and sure enough, there he was, in his very own green spaceship race car, with green paint and a big alligator painted on the side, with two huge exhaust rockets on the back, hovering in space at the start line, ready to begin the big race. Then the announcer continued. And beside Gershwin, you'll see a perennial crowd favorite, the one and only Outer Space Brave Digger. Now, in case you forgot, the Brave Digger is Froggy the Gator's favorite monster truck. But today, as they imagined the outer space race they were viewing, the Brave Digger was actually a space monster truck, bigger than Gershwin's spaceship, but with equally powerful-looking jetpack rockets on the back, and the famous Brave Digger paint job of all black with really cool green stripes and a big yellow lightning bolt on his hood with a big outer space digger arm coming out of the top. "Wow," Froggy the Gator said. "I can't believe he's here. I love the Brave Digger." Then the announcer went on. "We also have, in the third position, you all know him, you love him, the Outer Space Blue Beast." And again the crowd erupted, and again Froggy and his friends couldn't believe it. But sure enough, there he was, a spaceship-looking Blue Beast, just like the monster truck in the real world. Except he was a rocket ship space version of the monster truck too, with 3 big rockets on the back, and his big green eyes on the front, with 2 huge fangs coming out of the grill of his spaceship. "Wow," Froggy said, "this is really going to be a great race. All these guys are really fast." And finally, the announcer said, our 4th competitor, coming all the way from planet Earth, it's Froggy the Gator and his fearless crew of Mr. Hummus, Wormbird, and Tomato Hedgehog. Then, all of a sudden, the entire crowd looked up, directly at Froggy and his friend's ship. They all started cheering as Froggy and his friends just looked at each other. "Us?" Froggy said. "How'd they even know we were here? How'd they know we were coming?" "I'm not sure," Mr. Hummus said, "but we'd better rise to the challenge. Come on, Froggy, let's fly down there and join the race." So the guys' spaceship lined up beside the Blue Beast, the Brave Digger, and Gershwin, and they were off. The race began with a huge laser beam from the announcer shining across the whole stadium, and the guys immediately had to see what their ship was made of. Spaceman race car driver Gershwin got out to an early lead. The monster truck spaceships and Froggy's ship were hot on his tail. And the first obstacle they faced was a strange icy planet with big icy rings all around it like Saturn. Froggy expertly maneuvered his spaceship through a gap between the rings and managed to pass the Brave Digger to get into 3rd place. Then they came across a big exploding dust cloud, probably a dying star, and the light was so bright from the shimmering explosion that the Blue Beast lost control of his monster truck ship and careened off into space at 1,000,000 miles per hour. So it was just Froggy and his crew, left hot on the tail of spaceman race car driver Gershwin. They were neck and neck. It was anybody's race. Ahead of them, as they were all in hyperspeed, they saw the finish line slowly coming into view. It was back at the arena, but they'd probably covered a few 100,000 miles by then because they were going so fast. And they pulled up right beside Gershwin's ship, and they looked across into his window. "You boys aren't going to win this time," Gershwin shouted to them as they hurtled toward the finish line. But Froggy had an idea. "Guys, I know how to win. Watch this," Froggy said to his friends. And then Froggy the Gator turned on the radio in his spaceship. And out of the speakers came Granny the Gator's famous lullaby. "Cover your ears, boys," Froggy said to his friends, "because nobody can resist the sounds of Granny the Gator's lullaby, so don't let yourselves fall asleep." And the guys all covered their ears as the sounds echoed across the empty space beyond them, because sound waves go forever in space, of course. And slowly but surely, just as Froggy had predicted, spaceman race car driver Gershwin fell asleep. He took his foot off the gas, and his spaceship just silently and stilly floated in space. As the guys crossed the finish line victorious, they couldn't even celebrate their win before they noticed that every single person in the stadium was asleep. Granny the Gator's lullaby had done it again. So they quietly took their space trophy from the snoring announcer and went back to playing pretend outer space games in Froggy the Gator's backyard. Today's episode of Froggy the Gator is dedicated to a couple of Froggy's great friends, Jess and Ridley. It was a clear night in Gator Grove. The air was still and the stars were illuminating the dark sky. Froggy the Gator and his friend, Mr. Hummus, were playing in Froggy the Gator's backyard, while Daddy the Gator and Mommy the Gator were cleaning up after a family dinner. "Froggy, can you help us put some dishes away?" Daddy the Gator asked. "Yeah, sure, Dad," Froggy said. And while cleaning up the table, Froggy the Gator looked outside and saw a shooting star. "Look, Dad, what is that? Is that a shooting star?" Froggy the Gator asked. "Well, actually, son, that's the International Space Station," responded Daddy the Gator. "The International Space Station looks like a shooting star, but it's actually a huge space station, basically a large structure that is low to Earth's orbit. And in it, there are a bunch of astronauts from countries all over the world." And Froggy the Gator looked confused, and Daddy the Gator said, "Listen, how about we go to the planetarium tomorrow and we can learn all about the International Space Station and shooting stars in outer space?" "That sounds great," Mr. Hummus said as he overheard. "Can I come along?" "Absolutely," said Daddy the Gator, "just as long as it's okay with your parents." That night, while getting ready for bed, Daddy the Gator grabbed a book from the back of his bookshelf. Mommy the Gator saw him and asked, "Which book are you grabbing tonight?" And Daddy the Gator responded, "This is a book my father gave me. It's all about space and astronauts, and I think Froggy is really going to like it." So Daddy the Gator walked into Froggy the Gator's room and said, "Froggy, tonight we are going to read a special book. This book Grandpa the Gator got me when I was a kid." So he pulled up a chair next to Froggy's bed, and the two of them discussed everything from spaceships to rocket engines to astronauts. And as Froggy the Gator was about to fall asleep, Daddy the Gator placed the book on the nightstand near Froggy's bed. He got up and turned out the lights. As Froggy drifted off to sleep, he began to dream about being an astronaut in outer space. He dreamed he was the captain of the Hercules 21 Titan spacecraft with Mr. Hummus as his co-pilot. Froggy the Gator, this is Mission Command. Froggy the Gator, come in. Do you copy?" Down in the crew's spaceship cabin, Froggy the Gator was walking around and walking to the control panel where he saw that the engine alarm was going off. The spacecraft had an overheated engine and it was flying toward the moon. The crew needed to get the engines up and running as fast as possible so they could make it home safely. "Mission Control, this is Froggy the Gator. I copy. I see the engine alarm is now going off. Is this related to an engine malfunction?" Mission Control came back in over the radio. "Yes, that alarm only goes off if the engine is non-responsive. Are you able to cool down the engines? Over." "Mission Command, I hear you loud and clear," Froggy the Gator responded. "It appears we have an issue with the cold gas chemical propulsion unit. This will require quite a bit of work. Can you run a diagnostics on our ship and see how bad the damage is?" Mission Control ran the diagnostics and responded back over the radio. "Froggy the Gator, it appears the damage to your engine is severe. You will have to find a solution soon. If your ship goes to the other side of the moon within the next 2 hours, we will lose contact." So immediately, Froggy the Gator and Mr. Hummus jumped into action. "I think I got it," Froggy the Gator said. "Mr. Hummus, look at the engine supply kit and see if we have anything that can help cool down our engines. An electrical release valve or something like that may just do the trick." "You got it, Captain Froggy," said Mr. Hummus. Mr. Hummus came back to the cabin with an engine release valve, but immediately he saw what that actually meant. "Froggy," he said, "this means you're going to have to go outside of the shuttle into space and do a spacewalk." "That's right," Froggy the Gator said. "It isn't ideal, but we don't have much time, and we have to get these engines back up and running." So Froggy the Gator jumped in his spacesuit, he checked his oxygen levels, he pressed a cool big red button, and that opened the space shuttle doors, and he headed out into the vast expanse of space. "Be careful!" shouted Mr. Hummus as Froggy floated away into space. Froggy the Gator floated his way toward the engine. He knew he was in a hurry, but he still took a moment to look around and admire the beauty of his surroundings. He saw huge gas nebulas, he saw shining stars as far as the eye could see, and he looked down and saw planet Earth, which looked like a big glowing blue and green ball beneath him. He floated over toward the engine and started connecting the new release valve. "Almost done," said Froggy as he radioed back to Mr. Hummus, and with a final click, Froggy the Gator said, All done now, I'm heading back on board." So Froggy the Gator spacewalked back to the space shuttle. After he took off his astronaut suit, he headed to the crew cabin where he was greeted by a relieved Mr. Hummus. Froggy the Gator looked at Mr. Hummus and said, "This is it. If these engines don't fire up, it may be too late to do anything else." As they returned to their seats, Froggy the Gator sat at the captain's chair and initiated the engine sequence. "Mission Command, we are going to fire the engines in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There was a slight delay, and then a loud rumble. "The engines are firing!" yelled Froggy the Gator. "You did it!" said Mr. Hummus. Froggy the Gator radioed down to Mission Control and said, "Mission Control, we are a full systems go." The next morning, when Froggy the Gator woke up, he jumped out of bed and ran downstairs. His family was already at the breakfast table. "I just had the craziest dream," Froggy the Gator announced. "Mr. Hummus and I were on a spaceship, and we had to fix the engine with an engine valve, and I walked out into space, and I saw a bunch of cool space things." "Wow," said Daddy the Gator. "That really is some dream. Does that mean you still want to go to the planetarium today, I guess?" "Oh, you bet," said Froggy the Gator. So after breakfast, they all loaded into the car to get ready to go to the planetarium. Before they pulled out of the driveway, Daddy the Gator pulled something out from his back pocket. "Hey, Froggy, I forgot to mention. Your Grandpa the Gator, gave me this when I was a kid, and now I want you to have it." So Daddy the Gator handed Froggy the Gator a small piece of metal. Froggy the Gator looked at it confused. "Well, what is this, Dad?" And Daddy the Gator just smiled. "Well, son, it's an old engine release valve from an old space shuttle. After you told me about your dream last night, I thought you never know when something like this may come in handy." The family went to the planetarium, and they saw all kinds of cool presentations and stars, and they saw a video of the sun and of all the planets in our solar system and the Milky Way galaxy, which is where Earth is. And on their way home, Froggy held up his grandpa's old engine release valve, and he looked up to the sky. As he did, he started daydreaming about even more new adventures in outer space. Hey everybody, this is Harrison, the creator of Froggy the Gator, and I wanted to let you know some huge news. I've joined Sherwood Kids to lead their marketing efforts. And if you didn't know, Sherwood Kids is an app where you can read and watch thousands of great books, audiobooks, and shows, all approved by us, so you know they're safe and you know it's always ad-free. Froggy the Gator is on the platform as well, and if you want to try it out, you can just ask your parents to click the link in the podcast description of this episode, or you can just go to sherwoodkids.com. Until next time, we'll talk soon. One night, Froggy the Gator and his family were enjoying a family dinner at their home. "That was delicious," said Froggy the Gator as he wiped away a last bit of mashed potatoes from his face. "Thank you, sweetheart," said Mommy the Gator. "Say, who's ready for dessert?" "I am," Froggy the Gator said. "I always have room for some of your dessert." And as Mommy the Gator headed to the refrigerator, she stopped and asked Daddy the Gator, "Hey, honey, did you show Froggy what you got at the wholesale store today?" Daddy the Gator looked up and said, I did not. Thank you for reminding me." He fumbled around in the garage for a minute and came back into the kitchen carrying a huge box. "What is that?" Froggy the Gator asked. "Just wait a second," Daddy the Gator said, and he sat the box down on the floor in the kitchen. As he did, Froggy the Gator walked over to open the box. Inside, he couldn't believe what he saw. "It's a telescope," Froggy said to his dad. "It's a real telescope." "That's right," Daddy the Gator said. "This will allow us to see stars and planets that are light years away. I thought you and your little brother might like this, and I got it on sale," as he winked at Mommy the Gator. "Oh, wow," said Froggy the Gator. And Mommy the Gator then chimed in, "Dessert may still need a couple of minutes to be ready. Why don't the three of you go out back and see what you can spot in the telescope?" "Sounds good to me," said Froggy the Gator. So he, Baby the Gator, and Daddy the Gator all got up from the kitchen table and headed outside. And Daddy the Gator had had a telescope as a kid, so he understood how to set them up really quickly, and he was able to set this telescope up in a matter of seconds. "It's a great night for this," Daddy the Gator said. "There's not a cloud in the sky." "So how does it work?" Froggy the Gator asked his dad. And Daddy the Gator pointed to the lens of the telescope, saying, "You point the telescope at the sky, and you look through this lens, which is called an eyepiece. From here, you'll be able to see the secrets of the cosmos and beyond. Let me just adjust a couple of things real quick, and then you can take a peek." After a few seconds of tinkering around, Daddy the Gator said, "Ah, there. That should do it. Come on over here, Froggy. Take a look inside the telescope and tell me what you see." Froggy the Gator put his eye to the eyepiece, and he was immediately transported across the solar system. With the night being so clear and all, seeing as there were no clouds, Froggy the Gator could see the planet Mars. He saw constellations too, like Orion's Belt, with perfect clarity. "The imagery is extraordinary," Froggy said to his dad. And Froggy the Gator's imagination took him to the stars as he pretended to be an astronaut leaping from planet to planet. "I've never seen such detail on these planets," he said in awe. And Froggy the Gator was pretending to wear a special protective astronaut suit that allowed him the ability to leap at the speed of light and discover space as no one ever had. Looking at different planets, he first landed on Mars, the red planet, and he took out his planetary diary to jot down in detail what he saw. "This planet is a dry place," Froggy the Gator said to himself. "Mars is a rocky planet with a solid surface, much like Earth's. It also has 2 moons that orbit the planet." Looking beyond Mars, Froggy the Gator then leapt to the next planet over, Jupiter. "This planet is huge," Froggy the Gator wrote in his notepad, his interplanetary notepad. "Jupiter is more than twice the size of all the other planets combined. And Jupiter's stripes and swirls are actually cold and windy clouds that are floating in the atmosphere." Then Froggy said, "I see a bunch of moons on this planet." For like Earth and Mars, Jupiter also had moons that orbit the planet, but Jupiter had dozens of them, close to 100 actually. "This place is gigantic," Froggy said as he surveyed Jupiter. "I don't think it's very suitable to stay for long periods of time. I should move on so I can make it back home for dessert." Leaping from Jupiter, Froggy then went to Saturn, the 6th planet from the Sun in our solar system. "This planet is also large," he said as he wrote down in his interplanetary journal. "There's a bunch of moons, not unlike Jupiter, but Saturn has something different. Saturn has rings," said Froggy the Gator, and he leapt into Saturn's orbit and admired the rings. "These rings are enormous." And as he studied the rings, he realized they must be mostly comprised of ice and space particles, and no one was really sure how long they've been there. Like Jupiter, Saturn is composed of gas, so he couldn't imagine himself walking on the surface. Froggy decided it was time to leave Saturn. He didn't want his dessert to get cold after all, but he still wanted to see all of the other planets. "This next planet," Froggy wrote in his interplanetary journal, "is a bluish-green color, and it's also much bigger than Mars or Earth," Froggy said to himself. "Why, this must be Uranus, the 3rd largest planet in our solar system. Like Saturn and Jupiter, it is also made of gas, and its bluish-green color is a combination of the atmosphere, which is made from methane. Just like Jupiter and Saturn, this planet has a ton of moons," Froggy noted in his journal. "In fact, right now I can count at least 20. Froggy the Gator floated from planet to planet throughout the cosmos, and between his planetary jumps, as he was having an incredible time, he noticed some stars in faraway galaxies. "Those look like they're too far away for me to jump to, at least for now," Froggy said to himself. Then, out of the corner of his eye, Froggy noticed something. "What's that over there?" And then Froggy the Gator leapt to the 8th planet in our solar system. Which one was that? Why, it was Neptune, of course. As Froggy orbited around Neptune, he noticed that it was so far away from the sun that it was mostly made out of ice. In fact, it was so far away from the sun that 1 year on Neptune is equivalent to 165 years on Earth. Then Froggy looked down at his logbook, which told him how far he'd traveled, and he realized that he was now approximately 2.7 billion miles away from Earth. "I've never been this far away from home," Froggy the Gator said. "I better get back before Mom and Dad start to worry." So Froggy the Gator made a huge leap back from Neptune to carry himself the 2.7 billion miles he needed to go to get back to Earth. But he overshot it. He missed Earth and actually went to Venus. That's right, Venus, the yellow planet. And similar to the other planets in our solar system, Venus is a combination of rock and gas, and it's a very hostile environment. "I can't see very much down here on Venus," Froggy the Gator said, "and it's pretty hot." You see, Venus is thought to be the hottest planet in our solar system, even though it isn't the closest to the sun. The planet's intense temperature is due to its greenhouse effect. So Froggy the Gator left Venus and went to go see the last planet on his journey. He leapt up and landed on Mercury, the closest planet to the sun. Unlike many other planets, Mercury didn't have any moons or any rings. It was like Earth and Mars in that it had a rough, hard surface. Noticing some similarities with Earth, Froggy the Gator said, "The sun is so bright, I can hardly see anything." And he was right. That's because Mercury is only 42 million miles away from the sun. And though that may seem like a long way, it's actually short compared to the Earth, which is 91 million miles away. "All right," Froggy the Gator said, "that's enough of this. I need to get back home so that I can have some of Mommy the Gator's dessert." And with one big jump, Froggy the Gator leapt from Mercury back to Gator Grove, back on planet Earth. "What a wild ride," he said as he stood up and took a step back from the telescope. "What'd you think?" Daddy the Gator said. And Froggy the Gator responded, "That is the coolest thing that you've ever bought from the wholesale store, Dad." They all went back in the kitchen together, and Mommy the Gator asked Froggy, "Did you enjoy the telescope, Froggy?" And Froggy responded, "I did. In fact, I want to make sure that I eat this dessert nice and quick so I can go back outside and play." Froggy the Gator and Mr. Hummus were enjoying a nice, sunny afternoon in Froggy's backyard when they noticed something strange. As we all know, the boys have quite an imagination, and today was no exception. "Do you hear that, Mr. Hummus?" Froggy asked. "It sounds like some sort of portal opening and closing to another dimension." Mr. Hummus went along with Froggy's pretending. "You know what, Froggy? Now that you mention it, I do hear a portal. Where's it coming from? I can't seem to place it via echolocation." Froggy got quiet and serious. "Mr. Hummus," he said, "look behind you." Mr. Hummus turned around, and behind him, where the back door to Froggy's house normally would be, stood a huge, whirling portal. When Mr. Hummus and Froggy looked at the portal straight on, it looked like it led to another galaxy. They saw stars and solar systems and nebulas, or is it nebulae? I think nebulae is the plural. They were all swirling around on the other side of the portal. What should we do, Froggy?" Mr. Hummus asked. "The only thing we can do, my friend. We have to go through it." And with that, the boys took a deep breath. They collected their thoughts, they nodded at each other, and they walked slowly through the portal together. Immediately as they did, they became lifted up off the ground, almost like the portal was a vacuum that sucked up whatever got close to it. The next thing the boys knew, they were flying through space and time, spinning around wildly and screaming and yelling and generally having no idea where they were headed. "What is happening?" Mr. Hummus shouted as they spun out of control traveling through the portal's space-time. "I don't know," said Froggy, "but here, grab my hand and hold on tight." Finally, after what felt like an hour, The boys' spinning slowed down. Then they quickly came to a complete stop. They heard another strange noise, and then out of nowhere, pop! They found themselves in an unfamiliar, barren, desert landscape. The boys looked around. "What is this place, Froggy?" Mr. Hummus asked. "I have no idea, Mr. Hummus, but we should explore and make sure that it's safe." Just as they were about to set off, a strange animal that they'd never seen before came galloping toward them. It looked kind of like a mix between a dinosaur and a llama. It had dinosaur legs like a T-Rex, but it had a llama face and head. As it got closer, the creature slowed down and began speaking to Froggy and Mr. Hummus. "My name is the Yellow Dinophantium, and I am here to announce that you have been selected for participation in this week's Galaxy Gladiator competition. Please hop on my back and I will take you to the stadium. The competition begins in 10 minutes. Froggy and Mr. Hummus again looked at each other. They were in a strange place, with strange creatures, and they didn't have any other option than to go along with the Yellow Dinophantium's request. As the Yellow Dinophantium galloped toward the arena, the sound of tens of thousands of fans echoed across the vast canyon landscape in the strange new world. They entered into the stadium through a huge doorway, probably 100 feet tall, and once they got inside, they saw it. All of a sudden, everything made sense. Because sitting high up in a luxury suite, surrounded by smiling sycophants, they saw none other than their old nemesis, Gladiator Gershwin. Gershwin, in case you forgot, was Froggy's stuffed alligator. And although Froggy loved Gershwin in the real world, Gershwin had a habit of becoming the boys' foil in their imagination world. "Welcome, boys," Gladiator Gershwin announced as the crowd roared with anticipation. "You are just in time for your match." "You'll never get away with this, Gladiator Gershwin," Froggy shouted, but it was too late, because just then, they heard it. It started as a faint stomping off in the distance, but as it grew closer, it sounded more like thunder. The crowd got quiet as the stomping thunder grew louder. Then, finally, the guards at the door to the stadium blew a huge trumpet-type instrument, and the doors swung open, and in walked Froggy and Mr. Hummus's competition. "Oh my gosh," said Mr. Hummus. "How are we supposed to beat that thing?" The boys looked up at the monstrous creature that had entered the arena. He was 200 feet tall, easily, and he walked on 4 legs like an elephant. But he also had 2 arms coming out of his shoulders. He had a long neck like a brontosaurus and huge sharp teeth like a T-Rex. He had orange, scaly skin with green and yellow spots going up and down his back. He roared at the sky as he entered the arena, and the crowd suddenly erupted with applause. Then Gladiator Gershwin made an announcement over the speakers. "All rise for the champion gladiator, undefeated, from the Wellsborgian galaxy, Orange Dinophantium, here to fight his 100th battle against Froggy the Gator and Mr. Hummus from Earth." The crowd roared, but Mr. Hummus and Froggy just looked at each other. Oh boy, said Mr. Hummus. "What are we gonna do?" "Don't worry," said Froggy. "I have a plan. Follow my lead." And just like that, Froggy sprung into action. "What are you doing, Froggy?" Mr. Hummus asked. But Froggy was already off working on his plan. He ran up to one of the guards at the entrance to the arena and grabbed his guard staff. It was like a big 10-foot pole that Froggy could then use as a bat against the monstrous gladiator creature. He waved the staff at Orange Dinophantium. This got the creature's attention, And as Orange Dinophantium was chasing Froggy, Froggy heaved the staff like a javelin up toward Gladiator Gershwin's seats. Orange Dinophantium predictably followed the javelin like a dog playing fetch, and he crashed into the side of the stadium. As he did, a new portal opened up where Gershwin's seats used to be. "Just as I expected," Froggy said. "Let's go, Mr. Hummus." The boys ran as fast as they could toward the open portal and jumped through. They swirled and spun back through the strange journey through space-time and quickly found themselves back on Earth, in Gator Grove, in Froggy the Gator's backyard. "Whew," said Mr. Hummus. "That was a close one. I thought we were done for. Great quick thinking with the javelin throw, Froggy. That totally saved us." "No problem," Froggy said. "That's what friends do. We have each other's back, and we help get out of sticky situations. But let's make a promise to each other right now. The next time a portal to another galaxy opens up in my backyard, let's just leave it alone." Mr. Hummus agreed, and the boys went inside for some lemonade in our regular, normal dimension.